Today we're talking about professionalism, or, as I like to call it, a bunch of arbitrary rules that nobody bothers to explain because we're all supposed to magically know them somehow.
We're gonna use you for our model.
No, but you said you wanted to use professional, and he's not a professional, but you said you wanted to use professional, but he's not a professional.
Hey everybody, my name's Ben Schatzel, and for the past 5 years I've been working with companies to help them strategically hire and retain autistic talent. Back to today's topic, professionalism. When you hear the word, a picture probably comes to your mind. Maybe something like this. Ah, yes, Don Draper, the textbook epitome of 1960s professionalism. Back when tattoos and piercings were considered unprofessional, but drinking on the job and harassing your coworkers was A-OK. But we aren't living in the 1960s anymore, and professionalism has changed a lot over time. So let's talk about it.
Hey, what up, Cynthia?
First of all, what even is professionalism? Great question. Thanks for asking. To me, professionalism is a subjective social performance that disadvantages those who can't or won't perform it. So basically, it's a made-up thing. It's not real, but we have to pretend like it is. So in a way, I guess that it is real, but it's also not. Does that make sense? Perfect. You're doing great so far. Professionalism can drastically change based off a workplace culture, managerial style, and geographical location. What's considered professional in a restaurant in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, probably isn't the same as a hospital in Pasadena, California. Professionalism is inherently subjective. It's not black and white at all. So, I've done my best to pinpoint the 5 most ambiguous, abstract, and absurd elements of professionalism. Let's dive in. First up, professional appearance. If you work in an office, professional attire might include slacks and a buttoned shirt, or perhaps a full suit, or maybe just jeans and a t-shirt. Who knows? And some employers might frown upon employees having excessive tattoos or piercings. But what defines excessive? It's all totally subjective. But appearance isn't just about personal appearance. It's also about social appearance or attitude. Employees are typically expected to have a positive attitude at work, unless maybe they work at Wiener Circle here in Chicago. If you know, you know.
What you want?
Now let's face it, a professional attitude is masking, and that can be incredibly challenging and stressful for people. As humans, we infer somebody's attitude based off their body language, but not everybody is able to communicate with body language. Not everybody is charismatic or great with eye contact or has a dynamic vocal cadence. None of this means that the person has a bad attitude at work. It just means that they're being authentically themselves. And that's why it's ridiculous to enforce guidelines on somebody's attitude. And let's not even get into the idea of embodying corporate values. What does that even mean? Are we just supposed to check our personalities at the door and transform into an empty corporate platitude? Actually, that might be kind of fun. Number 2, social expectations. A major aspect of professionalism is the social behavior that people display at work. Small talk about the weather, sports teams, or current events are common topics in the workplace. But not everybody excels at small talk, and almost nobody actually likes it. When it comes to conversation topics, sex, religion, and politics are typically considered taboo and should be avoided. Yet, if you hear a coworker make a subtle comment or joke, it's probably just brushed to the side, which can be very confusing. It seems that the boundary for certain topics has more to do with the magnitude of the comment than the actual nature of the comment. For example, it's okay to say, "Oh my God," in the workplace, but your employer probably wouldn't appreciate it if you gave a full-blown sermon. Okay, I'm being a little hyperbolic, But trying to figure out what you are and are not allowed to talk about in the workplace is a real guessing game and is very confusing. Not to mention, it's usually not consistently reinforced.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Next, we have optics. Demonstrating professionalism usually involves looking professional, which sounds redundant and maybe even obvious, but what exactly does that mean? Well, it's considered unprofessional to take too many breaks, but it may not be considered unprofessional to escape work in other ways. For example, some people can decrease their pace of work, or just pretend like they're working without actually getting anything done. But these people look more professional than the person who might be taking an extra break or two, so optically, they are demonstrating professionalism, even though that person who's taking an extra break or two might be getting a lot more work done. Here's the weirder part. Optics aren't just about appearing on task, because it might also be bad optics to overwork. Emailing coworkers outside of office hours, being persistent with follow-up, offering revisions to meeting notes. These are things that may or may not be considered unprofessional. So it's not okay to take extra breaks, and it's not okay to overwork, so you just have to find that exact sweet spot of productivity and be consistent, like a robot. How much productivity is in that sweet spot, you might ask? Well, nobody's going to give you the same answer, so it's up to you, the viewer.
What are your weaknesses?
I don't have any ass.
Number 4, demonstrating initiative. Every boss loves a go-getter. There's always work to be done, right? So, if you didn't receive your materials to complete the tasks for the day, just find something else to work on. But what does that mean? You don't want to step on anybody else's toes and do their job for them, but you also don't want to be seen as escaping work. So, just demonstrate initiative. Initiative requires social inferencing skills. It requires the employee to take cues off of the environment, other coworkers, and team priorities to figure out what they can be working on. But social inferencing is a skill, and it's not a skill that everybody possesses. If the boss wants the employees to attend to certain tasks, then it would be best to create a priority list of both primary and backup tasks so that everybody knows what they can be working on, even if there's disruptions. But that's not exactly taking initiative, is it? It's just like good managerial practice. Last, we have my personal favorite, good communication, which basically means just being good at everything, because everything is communication. The words you say, your body language, the people you develop social connections with, your writing style, all of these and more are part of communication skills. The workplace is a social environment where we work together with a team to complete a shared goal and get paid. But strong communication skills are totally dependent on the job and the workplace. Ever seen a surgeon talking in a medical drama? Scalpel, transfuser, monkey wrench. Is that good communication? Well, it's efficient and it serves the mission, so it should be good communication, right? But that kind of communication skill probably wouldn't be considered good for, say, an educator. Algebra, long division, integers. It doesn't quite work, does it? Since every workplace is unique and every team dynamic is unique, that means that strong communication skills will look totally different depending on the environment. And that doesn't even account for the fact that every manager will have their own preferences. Some managers might want you to consolidate all of your questions into one weekly meeting. Some might want you to ask questions as they come up, or take them to a different team member. Some managers might invite your feedback on how to improve process, and some managers may not take kindly to constructive criticism. continuous improvement. There's a lot of guesswork involved in understanding the social environment and how to communicate strongly, which can be very confusing for everybody, and especially confusing for people who may not have the best communication skills to begin with. Because at its core, professionalism is just forcing people to waste mental energy trying to decode social norms instead of doing what they were actually hired to do. What's one confusing professional rule that you've experienced? Is there a way to recreate professionalism so that it works for everybody? Or should we just burn the whole thing to the ground? What's something about professionalism that really grinds your gears? Let's talk about it in the comments. I'm sure there's plenty I missed. Who knows? Maybe there's enough for another video. Thank you so much for watching until the end of the video. Please hit subscribe as well as the bell for notifications. It really helps out the channel. This has been Spectrum Network. See you next time.